Only mode.
Wonderful weekend and got a chunk of your Christmas shopping done. So we'll go ahead and get started today. First, I want to thank everybody. A lot of what I was talking about last week about taking December and dedicating it to really getting good at the at the 21-point checklist at the system. A lot of you really took that to heart, and you said you're going to put your nose to the grindstone and really just buckle down and learn that, since this is it should be your slowest month, or your month when your clients are busy, and prospecting isn't a good thing to be doing at this point for the next few days or few weeks. You're going to buckle down and learn the 21-point checklist, because that's what's going to make you all your money. So I want to thank all those that have said that they're going to use that for their December for really buckling down. But I have a question for you. So the year, at the end of the year, we look at people who have come onto the system, and we know how much money you've made before the year before you came on with us. Because when we've interviewed you and talked to you, you told us about how much money you were making. And so we have people. There's actually three groups of people. Those that came on when they came on were making less than $100,000 a year. Those in the middle, and then those that were making more than $200,000 a year when they came on. So the two groups I want to talk about today are those that were making less than $100,000 when they came on, and those that are making more than $200,000 when they came on. So which of these, let's see some answers to this, which of these would it be easier to double their income? The people who were making less than $100,000 when they came on, or more than $200,000 when they came on? Which would be easier? Yeah, I mean, the $100,000 would be easier, right? Because making an extra 100 is a lot easier than making an extra 200. I mean, that's going to be easier, right? Because if you make going from 100 to 200, you only have to go up an extra 100. Going from 200 to 400, you're going up an extra 200. But some of you have already jumped to the Brad's got it. Brad, you beat me to the punch. Which of these advisors, in which of these groups did I have more advisors double their income the first year with 5Q? The people making 200? Well, it has nothing to do with current clients, Jim. It has nothing to do with current clients. The people that were making over 200, I have way more people with that group that have doubled their income. Now, why? Brad's told me already, but let's see. I want to see more. If you heard what I'm complimenting. Dale's got it. Yep. They're used to working hard, Jerry. That's right. So these are guys that are, guys in this industry. I've told my son who's in college. I told my son who's in college, I said, dude, become a financial advisor. You can be a dumbass and make 70, 80 grand a year, which is way more than the average person in this country makes, because we have such a high profit margin in this industry. So the guys with 200,000 are already used to making, working an 8-hour work week, working Monday through Friday. So yeah, that is the case. They have a work ethic, and you've already told me the why. And here's what frustrates me. Somebody will call me up, and they'll say, Mike, I've got my back against the wall. I got my back against the wall. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have enough money for. I've got to make something before the end of the month because my bills are coming in, and I don't know what to do. So what do you think when they tell me that? What do you think the first thing I say to those folks is? Those people with their backs against the wall. Oops, shoot. I gave you a hint there. Well, the first thing I do is say, hey, let's role play the power of attorney. Why would I, you guys got it. Why would I say, hey, let's role play the power of attorney? Because they're thinking, well, how's that going to help me? I need to see people right now to make money. And I say, let's role play the power of attorney. Why do I ask them that, guys? Because the people that have their backs to the wall, those are not people that have just come on with me. Generally, those are people who have been with me 6, 8, 9, 12 months. So why do I ask them, hey, let's role play the power of attorney? Well, Bert's got it. See if anybody else gets it. You're all wondering why I would ask them that. See if they've done the work, Bobby. That's right. Make sure they're doing the work, Jim. That's right. So then, and then almost always, guess what they'll tell me? Oh, no, I haven't worked on that for the last few weeks. Guys, if your back's against the wall and you're not making any money, what should you have plenty of time to do? Because if you're not making any money, what have you been doing? And then I'll say, okay, let's do this. I want to help you. I feel bad. Your back's against the wall. I want to help you. You don't have the foundation, so we're going to go back and we're going to learn the foundation, make sure you get that. So how many hours can you put towards this every day? And guess what they'll say inevitably? Well, guess what these people will say? The ones that backs against the wall. Well, no, they want, Rick, I wish they would say 8. Guess what they tell me? Something less than 8. Dudes, if you're a professional, what's the work? What's everybody in the whole country work? What's everybody in the whole country? How many hours does everybody in the country work? Minimum. That's minimum, right? How many people work? I know here at the Mayo Clinic, guess how many hours those docs work? Way more than that. Guess how many people that make how about at IBM? Missy can chirp into this. How many hours, Missy, did the guys work at IBM? They're not making the $200,000, $300,000 a year. They're making engineer salaries. Do they work 40-hour work weeks?
No, they work a lot more than 40 hours.
And yet, the people with back against the wall say, "Yeah, I'm going to put my whole effort towards this. I'm going to give you 4 hours a day." I'm like, what? What are you talking about? See, guys, work like a normal person in this country. Work 8 hours a day. If you're going to babysit your kids, then what should you do, guys? If you're going to babysit your kids, then what should you do? Babysit your kids. If you're going to work in this business, you should what? Work in this business. So I'm not here to tell you how hard to work. I mean, I'm out of that business. I did that the first 7 years I coached, and I nearly went into, Missy can validate this, I nearly went into the funny farm trying to make people work. I'm done making you work. I'm just saying, please don't come and tell me your back's against the wall when you're working 3-4 hours a week. Okay? That's ridiculous. So if work an 8-hour day, I mean, if I went to an IBM engineer and said, listen, their back's against the wall, they need to make more money, I said, hey, if you pass a test, I'll double your income. What would those people do when they got home? Play video games? What would they do? That's right, they would study. What would they do when they got up? Guys, when I got in this industry, I was an executive at Best Buy. So I was working about 12-hour days at Best Buy. Then I got home and studied for my Series 7. So I worked, got home, and studied for my Series 7, and then went to bed. That's all I did. I worked. Every waking hour I worked. Now, I'm not asking you to do that, but I tell you, guess why I made $1 million a year? Now, when I made $1 million a year, I was only working 40 hours a week. But I tell you what, the reason I made $1 million a year is because when I worked, I what? I worked. Okay? So with that said, I want to thank all those, again, very few people are telling me that their back's against the wall, but when they do, it drives me bananas when they're telling me they're going to only work 3 or 4 hours a day to get their back off the wall. But most of you have really, I just got so many emails and phone calls last week saying you're going to just dedicate yourself in December to locking down, mastering the 21. So thank you for doing that. And that kind of cues into what Jerry wanted to talk to you about today.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, thanks for having me on the call today. I actually have a personal story, and then just kind of dovetailing off what Mike was talking about. That was very good. Thank you, Mike. You know, with needs and wants, everybody wants to make more money, and then some people need to make more money, and really it's the action behind it that is really important. So, like I said, everybody wants to end up making more money, and the problem is, like you're saying, if someone says, hey, I'm only willing to put in 3 hours of work a day to get better, especially if I don't have any more time, because they don't want to dedicate any more time to it. Like Mike said, he's not, you know, we're not looking to beat people over the head or make them work any harder than they want. The great thing about this business is we are independent business owners, and you like to have that freedom, but just have to know if you're only willing to put in 3 hours of day of work, what kind of results are you going to get when you put in 3 hours of work a day? You're going to get the results of someone who puts in 3 hours of work. You're not going to get the full-time professional advisor results, and you just got to have your expectations set for that. If you want to make more money, then you're going to have to put in an effort. And just to put it out there too, I mean, we're independent business owners, especially if we're getting our business moving forward, it's not just 8 hours of work that you're putting in. When you're starting something new and you have a baby, most of the time it's more important that we're going to be putting in more effort than that 8 hours because we have to get the train rolling. It's not already going. So if we want to be successful, a lot of times we have to put even more time. And then when we're in a position where we don't want to get in that position, but sometimes when in the beginning of our business or when we're not successful yet, we need to, like you said, we have to put in even more time. If you're in a position of need where you need to make more money, well, we have to look at the action and say, well, if I need to put in, if I need to, I need to be willing to do anything, which starting with the hours that you put in preparation, that's the first thing. That's the first thing. I mean, that's something you can control. And when we're putting time in and we're putting time into, you know, our hours of when we're working, well, let's define that a little bit more too as well. If I'm putting 8 hours in or 4 hours in or 6 hours in, whatever that is, what are we spending during that time? So what is work? Well, to me, what that work is, it's either we're either seeing clients or we're preparing to see clients. So preparing to see clients, that would come down to, do I know from A to B exactly how that conversation is going to go? Am I prepared to lay that conversation out? Am I confident when I'm going in to go through that script? Because if we're not relaying confidence, no one's going to get buy something or buy what we're talking about if we don't have confidence in what we're saying. And how do we get that confidence? Well, we get that confidence from the preparation that we do prior to having that meeting. We know exactly what we're going to say. We know we're not going to screw. We know it so well that we know that we're going to be right on task when we're going through that meeting. So to me, that's what the work is. That's seeing clients and the preparation that we're doing with clients. And then talking a little bit about need, just going back to a personal story. We've all done different things in our past, and for me, I used to do door-to-door sales. That's something that I did, and I was fully commissionable, knocking on doors. It was kind of funny. One of the guys said to me the other day, he says, you're definitely going to heaven, Jerry. And I said, why is it? He goes, well, you spent time in hell. So how it kind of worked when I used to do door-to-door sales, I used to do trash sales is what I did. I would go door-to-door, fully commissionable, knocking on doors. And I would work. My plan would be to work Monday through Friday. And how it worked, those prime hours during the week, I need to knock on doors when people were home. So that would be typically 4 till 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And I would go longer if I could Monday through Friday, depending on if it was still light and kind of the time of the year, because it gets, you know, starts getting dark here. So I would work Monday through Friday, and I would have a number of the amount of sales that I needed to get on a weekly basis. So what I would have to do is, if I had it set at 40 hours for the entire week, or excuse me, 40 sales that needed to be done for the week, and I got to Friday and I was only at 25 sales or 30 sales, what did I do? I needed to get those sales. Well, I could have just said, well, the work week's Monday through Friday. I guess I just stem the brakes. I got to have my weekend. I got to have it. Well, no, I needed to make the money. So what did I do? Saturday, I went out, and if I was going to work a Saturday, I would work 10 till 5 o'clock on Saturdays because you have more hours, and that's what Saturday was for. So even though I worked Monday through Friday, I needed to get those sales that week. So what did I do? I had to put in those extra hours on Saturday. And so on Saturday, and this would happen quite often, and if I needed to get those sales and I worked that 10 to 5 and I said, and I was 3 short, sometimes it would come down to that. It'd be 5 o'clock, I want to come home, I want to go do stuff, I want to come home and see my family. If I was missing those 3 sales, I had to buckle down and said, well, I need to get these sales. I'm not going home until I get these sales. It's not happening. So then I just swallowed it, stopped at the gas station, got something to eat, and I said, all right, I'm going back out here. And sometimes I would get those sales in the next hour. I was motivated. Sometimes I stayed out till 9 o'clock at night and ended up putting in a 12-hour day because that's what it took for me to survive, and I needed it I needed it, so I went out and did it. If I just wanted to, there's times where maybe I just wanted to get a sale or I wanted to do more, then that was a want, and then my action could show if I really wanted it. But when I needed it, when I really needed to get those sales, I went out there and worked on Saturday. And then when I got to 5 o'clock, if I didn't have it, I needed it. I stayed out till that night, and sometimes I would even work 7 days and go on Sunday. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because the need factor is what made me go out there and do it. Now, some of us say we want stuff, but you don't really need it. If you really want it, you're going to put in action. I'm not saying we have to go work on Saturdays and Sundays. Everybody has their own desires, and they know what they need and they need to do. But you put in the effort, and the effort level that you guys put in, that's going to be the results that you get out of this. There is no magic wand. The effort that you put in shows how badly you want something. And this actually kind of dovetails in. I have one of my friends, Tony. He's an advisor on the system. I was just going to talk to him a little bit. I like Tony. He's got a great work ethic, and he understands what it takes to be successful in the business, and he's getting better. He's been with us for about a year. And Tony, you here with me?
I'm here. Yep.
Hey, Tony. So kind of just a little experience we just had here with Tony. Probably about a couple of weeks back, Tony, you were working on a case with a client, and you take everybody through a 21-point checklist, right?
Everybody, yep.
Everybody goes through the 21. And we had a client here. This was, am I saying this right, but this is probably one of the biggest clients you've ever, well, it came into some that were bigger in your past. But Tony ended up closing this client. We're just going to talk a little bit about what it took to get there and the effort that he put in on it. But is this, as far as this client particularly here, which is just kind of exciting, I want to give you some kudos live here, but is this, I think you told me this is the largest client that you've ever closed?
Yeah, this is in 22 years, the largest case I've ever written.
Well, congratulations to you, Tony, because I know you put in a ton of work, and that's what we're going to talk about. So just to give you guys a little bit of the backstory on this, Tony and I, we talked, like I said, it was a couple weeks back, and it was late in the day. It was about 5 o'clock, and we were trying to decide what we should do. You already did the 21, and we're moving on to the implementation meeting, and we were looking for the best way to go about this. And what did we decide that we should do for this this client meeting the day after? Tony, your meeting was the next day. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we had the meeting scheduled for the next day, and I was trying to figure out, like you said, what the solutions. I've been kind of, if I've lost, the 21's been working perfect to get them to the solutions meeting. I was having a little trouble with the solutions meeting where some people were falling off, so I was talking to you about it, and you told me to review some of the presentations that might get put on, and it kind of got me pumped up that there was some new stuff on there that I should look at, and that I should really try to get that down before my meeting. Yep.
Right. So we had talked about it, and one of the things too why we do the a lot of you guys, we've worked together on the 50% participation presentation, some of the different presentations, and it's really important. One of the reasons why we love to use those presentations, and all the guys, if you're not using them before you talk about an annuity, you should give me a call, and we should talk about it, because this is something you want to be able to do, because it takes away 75. It does 75% of the job for you when you're doing the presentation, because it's going to get the client to buy in. They're actually going to tell you 30 or 40 times why the annuity is a good fit for them and why they want it, and then you're not going to have to worry about problems or excuses or thinking, hey, these aren't liquid, or I don't like annuities. All of those normal excuses that you could possibly get from someone who has bad ideas about them, it's going to take care of those problems and get it out of there. So Tony and I, we decided, hey, we should do this. We should learn this presentation. So Tony and I agreed, hey, presentation's the right thing. So what did you do? Now here's the thing, Tony. It was 5:30 at night when you and I were talking. Late in the night, you put in your work day. What did you end up why did you learn the presentation? It was 5 o'clock already. Your meeting was the next day. You could have just said, hey, I've already put in my work for the day. I'm just going to do what I've always done and just roll the dice and see what happens. How come you didn't do that, Tony?
Well, I really wanted to land the case, for one thing, and you made it seem like, oh, and I remember you were telling me, hey, listen, everybody, the last couple guys who've done this, they've all had success with it. Every one of them has knocked it out of the park. And I was like, well, geez, you know, if it's working for everybody, then I better learn it. And so I buckled down and decided to learn it, even though it was the next day.
Oh, this next day, and that presentation, I got to say, because I train everybody on it, it's most people when they go to learn it, and I think it could be done. I've had people learn it in a day like you, or 2 days, or even a week. There is effort that you have to put in there to do it, but you put in effort. So how late? Tell me about your preparation day. How late did you stay up learning that presentation?
Well, I started watching it, and I think if I remember right, my wife called me to dinner, and then of course my kids wanted to spend a little time with me, and it got late, and I had only watched half of it, and I said, no, hon, you can go to bed. I'm going to watch the rest of it. So I watched the rest of it that night, probably around 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I was tired, but I watched it, and then I watched it again the next day and took notes, because I know watching it the first time I wasn't going to be able to do it in person, just watching it once. So I watched it again and went through and stopped and went through and stopped, and I made myself a cheat sheet, because I knew otherwise I wasn't going to be able to go into that meeting knowing what I was talking about.
You could have just as easily, Tony, you could have said, you know what, I've closed cases, I know how to close cases, and I'm not going to put in, you know, I want to go home, I'm tired, it's 5 o'clock, but you decided to stay up till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock that night, and then the next day you got up and prepared prior to that meeting. I appreciate the effort that you put in. Why did you do that? I mean, you could have easily done that. I mean, you put in hard work all the time, Tony. You could have easily just said, nah, I'm gonna wait, and you know what? Next time I'll learn this. I'll prepare this another time. I don't want to put the work in today. Why did you put the work in?
Well, like I said, I guess I wanted to make sure that that this case happened. It was a large case. I knew it would mean a lot for my end of the year, for my business, for my family, and I wanted to make sure it happened.
All right. Well, and how did it turn out?
We got it.
Yeah.
So pretty stoked.
Yeah, put in the preparation, and I appreciate it too as well. And there's a lot of guys that work hard, and that's the kind of, I mean, you just tell everybody what kind of effort you have to put in order to you know, have good results in this business. Is it something where you just wing it, or how much preparation do you put into meetings prior to meeting with people?
No, you got to prepare. I mean, especially when you're dealing, I think, too, with bigger cases, you know, and even smaller cases. I mean, it doesn't matter, really. Everybody needs to be prepared for it, because there's a lot of details that go into this, and you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be prepared for what they're going to throw out at you.
I'm going to jump in there too. Tony we love Tony and his work ethic, because he is not afraid to send in tapes. He's been sending in tapes for a whole year. And guess what? He's one of those guys whose volume has doubled in a year. So the amount of business he's written has doubled in a year, and it's because he keeps improving. And during the year, have you had some rough spots, Tony?
Yeah, I have.
With the system, right? You're like, I don't get it. The system's not working, or it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's not. And you've reached out to Jeff, you've reached out to me, you've reached out to Jerry, and you know, I'll just give you kudos, because so many guys, when they get to those rough spots, they just throw up their hands and say, oh, it's too hard, or oh, it's not working, or whatever. But you actually reach out, work through the rough spots, and do you see? I mean, again, your volume has doubled. You're one of those guys that makes over $200,000 a year. I mean, do you see the light at the end of the tunnel with the system?
Oh, definitely. You know, it took me, like I said, one of the rough spots was I wasn't seeing it, and then you told me, well, go look at the numbers. And I started crunching my numbers. I was like, wait a minute, I did do a whole heck of a lot better than I thought I did. So Yeah, I'm definitely seeing it. I mean, I wasn't even doing assets under management when I came on.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got over $1 million under management my first year doing that, and that's business I would have never had had I not come on the system. So, and that's in addition to my annuity business, which I've done well with that too. So, it's been really good for me.
And you don't just say, "Oh, you know what? I got it. I don't need any more help here." That's the one thing I love about you. You don't say, "I got it. I got the system mastered. I can just go ahead." You constantly reach out to get a little bit better, and just too few people do that. So I mean, that puts you in the top 1%, Tony. So I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, Jerry, I interrupted you.
Well, I just had one question for you, Tony. What would you say to someone if they said, "Well, Tony, Mike gives me these things to learn, and there's this 15-minute script. It's just so hard. I don't want to do it, Tony. It's just there's so much work involved to be able to do this." What would you say to someone that says that? You've been through it. You've learned a lot of stuff.
Well, you're crazy. Why are you on the system? I mean, the system works, and you just gotta work it. You gotta put the time in, and you can't. Anyone can sit and whine about it, but you gotta. And there is a little effort. I mean, I'm not saying it came easy. This is work, but it pans out, and it's not that hard. I mean, let's face it. You're learning a script. I mean, we've all been in sales. Duh. We've probably learned 50 scripts up to this point in our life. This one is we actually have one that works now, so why wouldn't you use it?
Well, I just want to say, and I'm going to jump in here, Jerry, because we got a bunch more to cover. But I just again want to say to Tony, you're one of the good guys. We appreciate you so much, and the fact that you're constantly trying to get better, even though you're already successful. You're one of those guys that's already successful. That's not good enough, and you put in the extra effort to get that much better, and it will pay off huge for you. So I appreciate that, Tony. And thanks, Jerry, for sharing your door-to-door story. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And then just a quick announcement, guys. What if in the first 30 minutes the client said, any advisor that doesn't make sure my power of attorney works as a lousy advisor, my advisor purposely used the wrong form to make money when I'm dead, wants to do the same thing to my kids, my advisor only cares about making money on me, and my niece and my family are just an afterthought. He's all about his paycheck. If they say that thing in the first 40 minutes, what are they going to do, guys? They say those three things. They're going to move all the money right now. So, and I'm going to take a step back here. Somebody was asking, what scripts is Jerry talking about? It's all the scripts under the implementation meeting. So the fixed index annuity script and the one-way presentation. So if Tony used one of those scripts for a product that he was going to be showing the client that time. And we've had unbelievable success. I mean, 90+% closing ratio with those scripts. So they're under the implementation. And just reach out to Jerry or anybody here, and we can point you to the right direction. So yeah, if in the first 40 minutes of the 21-point checklist they're going to move their advisor, then what if in the first 75 minutes somebody tells you that I need a win-win-win at the outside the box, and then they say I need to you to look at my power of attorney, not the group, but everybody individually. Bob tells you this, and Sue tells you this, and Mary tells you this, and Frank tells you this. I need to see you for a win-win-win. I need you to look at my power of attorney. I need you to, well, we don't do the Social Security anymore, so we'll ignore that one. And I want an easy check. So if they say number 1, number 2, and number 4, I need to see you for a win-win. I need you to look at my power of attorney. I want an easy check or a eccentric check. If they say those three things, what are they going to do, guys? Not the group, but if they all say it individually, what's each individual going to do? That's right, Brad and Jim, they're going to make an appointment. And we're still at that 50-50. 50% of you are getting 80 to 100% appointment ratios. 50% aren't. So what's the difference between those, do you think? The people that are getting the 50% and the people who aren't getting 50%? I'm sorry, the people who are closing 80 to 100% or the 50% that's not closing that 80 or 100%? What do you think the difference is? Yeah, knowing the material, and I mean knowing it, backwards and forwards. So you cannot practice this until you get it right. Because all the guys that, I've seen guys, the 50% that aren't getting the 80-90% appointment ratio, they're doing it right in practice, but do they have it nailed down, or are they barely doing it right in practice? That's right, Brad. Questions for each person. They're barely getting it right in practice. So if you're barely getting it right in practice, as soon as you go out onto the real, to the big game with the people, what happens? If the one tiny little thing crosses your path, one tiny little hurdle crosses up, you fumble, you screw up exactly. So you got to know this thing, not till you get it right. You got to practice it till you can't get it wrong. 20 times, 25 times. You probably heard me say this. Jerry Seinfeld, when he was just starting, finally got a gig on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. How important is that? That makes or breaks. That makes or breaks your career. How many times did he practice his 5-minute script before it went on to Tonight Show? Yeah, 200 times. 200 times. So guess how good he was at that thing? It was awesome. So the outside the bush, if you want to get really good and get 80 to 100% appointment ratios, you go to the coaching call at 817-16, 817-16, and that'll tell you if you follow the directions there, you will get 80 to 100% appointment ratios. The guys that have, the 50% that have, are awesome at the skills I talk about on that call. So at the end of every seminar season, 16, or maybe this 8. Oh, sorry, 817-15. Yeah, we're looking in the future here. 817-15, not 16. Sorry about that. That's sloppy. Thanks, guys. So, but at the end of every seminar season, so we're at the end of that seminar season, what we'll do is we'll listen to what people are saying and we'll update. So we've updated the outside the box a little bit. And what we're doing is we're going to change the power of attorney script. Because right now we have 3 powers of attorney script. One is we have a power of attorney script for the 21-point checklist. Okay, there's a script for the power of attorney for the 21-point checklist, which you all should be awesome at, I hope. Then we have a power of attorney script for the outside the box, which is a different power of attorney script. Then we have the tie the power of attorney to everything script, which we use. When do we use the tie the power of attorney to everything script? When would we use that? See some answers on that. When do we use the tie the power of attorney? First meeting if what, Steve? You're right, first meeting if what? If they don't want to bring in the documents. If they don't want to bring in the documents, we use the tie the power of attorney to every script. Yep, that's exactly right. So what we've done is we're going to take the tie the power of attorney script, and instead of using the outside the box script, we're going to actually take the power of attorney script out of the outside the box, and we're going to put a version of the tie the power of attorney script into that spot. So the beginning of the workshop stays the same, the win-win-win stays the same, the close stays the same. The only thing that's going to be different is we're going to take the power of attorney section that's in there now, take it out, and we're going to put in the tie the power of attorney in its place. And here's why. With the tie the power of attorney to everything, do we tie it to Social Security with the power of attorney to everything? Do we tie the power of attorney to Social Security? Do we tie it to Medicare? Do we tie it to the IRS? Do we tie it to their Medicare SUP? Do we tie it to their home insurance? Do we tie it to the banks and brokerages? Yes, all of that. The current outside-the-box power of attorney we tie to what? What's the only thing we tie the current outside-the-box power of attorney to? The banks and brokerages. So how much more clout do we have now with the tie the power of attorney to everything in there instead of just the outside the box? Way more clout. Because with the current outside the box, we had to convince them that their bank or brokerage wasn't going to honor the power of attorney. And the 50% that are getting 80 to 100% appointment ratios, they're doing that convincing. But why not? How hard do you think it is to convince them that the government is screwed up? How hard is it to convince them the government's screwed up? Not hard at all. So now you got Social Security, Medicare, IRS. They're not going to fight you at all on that. So it's just a more powerful script than the current outside the box. Okay, so all we did was the outside the box is still the same. We're just going to take the power of attorney module out, and we're going to put the tie the power of attorney module in there. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that? And that's updated on the website now, Missy? Is that right?
It sure is, and we are now referring to it as Outside the Box 2016, so you'll find that on the website, and the correct version is out there.
Okay, makes sense. So here's the thing. Now you only have 2 powers of attorney scripts to memorize. Instead of having the outside the box, the tie the power of attorney and everything, and the 21, now you just have to memorize the get rid of the outside the box one. You just have to memorize the tie the power of attorney to everything one, which is going to be inside the outside the box, and you memorize the 21-point checklist one. Now here's the great thing. By memorizing the outside the box, what did we say the tie the power of attorney to everything was for? Before this, what were we using it for? Yeah, to get them to bring in their statements. So guess what we're also now doing at the event? What are we doing at the event? By putting the tie the power of attorney to everything inside the outside the box, what are we doing? Yeah, we're giving them a reason, Jim, to bring in their events, solving that problem. Exactly right. Make sense? Coolio. So that's on the website now, and both the video on how to do it and the PowerPoint is on the website. So speaking of the outside the box, Missy is going to do our annual year end and talk about marketing for 2016.
Okay, so we're going to kind of go through a few of these pieces pretty quickly, just so that we can hopefully get all the way to the end. So everyone can see my screen, hopefully? Okay. So, and I'll put this calendar out there for everyone so that you can kind of have a quick little snapshot. Now, several of you have already talked with about your 2016 planning. A few of you I have not, and for some of you this will be a refresher, and for others this might be new information for you. So feel free to call me after the call if you have questions and you're getting ready to go and do your planning and you aren't quite sure on how to exactly do it. So feel free to give me a call, but I'm just going to kind of walk through what we would recommend and the process that we would use in order to kind of plan an event. So this is the 2016 calendar. The dark dates that have the outlines around them would be kind of the primary dates that we'll refer to. The dates that are also kind of shaded with the color, those would be like alternate dates. So every mailing that we do, we require 2 dates to be put on that mailer. So hence why you're seeing at least 2 dates in every month. So in January, we're recommending the 20th and the 26th as kind of the primary dates. What I take into consideration are a couple of things when we put this calendar out there for you guys. The first being, we do like to have the mail drop in the same month that you're having the event. The second thing being, where do holidays fall? Because we certainly prefer that our mail doesn't drop over a holiday or that your appointments don't land the following week after your event, that there's not a holiday in there as well. So there is a bit that goes into trying to look at these dates, and I'm not going to tell you that it's absolute perfection, because there are just the way that all of the holidays fall throughout the year, there's some Monday holidays, and we prefer to try to not have it on a Tuesday then, and if that's the case. But there are times that we can't follow all of these rules, so we just have to do the best thing that we can possible. So I have put out the best days that I feel for January, the 20th, 26th, February 17th, 23rd, March. There is actually time to do 2 events in the month of March. So for those of you that kind of want to get the year off to a good start, we usually tell you to try to pad those on the front end. January and February, maybe you do 2, 3 events. The way that the calendar works in 2016, there's really not a good opportunity to do 3 events in January and February combined. That doesn't come until we get into March to be able to do those 2 back-to-back events. So that's why you'll see 4 dates in March. April, we've got some dates. May, the 17th and the 24th. Now, May's a good month to look at because we've got Memorial Day on the 30th. So why I've given you the picks for Tuesday is because then hopefully your first appointments for the 24th should be all complete the 26th and the 27th. Now I understand, like many of you are probably saying right now, that's a holiday weekend. Why would we try to put appointments in on the 27th? I'm going to have a lot of people say they can't meet me. That might be true, but the option that's basically our best option. We couldn't really push it anywhere else. So trying to get those appointments in as quickly as possible, or recognizing that they'll come back and say, you know what, that weekend's just really not going to work for me. I can't do it on the 27th. At least we have a legitimate reason. We've offered them those opportunities, and they may opt to do the appointments the following week. But those really were our best options for May. Now, when we get into our summer months, June, July, and August, we do have people that do events. What we have found is that your response doesn't tend to dwindle. We still have very good response, and part of that is there's less people doing events. People are still looking for, depending upon what part of the country, they're still looking for time that they can be inside. If you're in a hot part of the country, they're happy to come into air-conditioned comfort and hang out with you for a couple of hours. So we're not saying don't do events in the summer. They are optional. For some parts of the country, they may work better than others. The thing you have to keep in mind is that your sales process will stretch out. So it's not the response, but you do need to go into it knowing that your sales process is not going to be a 4-week, 5-week process. You should expect it to be another week or two longer. So if they say, I can't make 2 days from now for my first appointment, you're just going to have to work with their calendar. There's lots of vacations, grandkids, whatever it might be. So it's not that we're not recommending events. I would say no events in the month of August. We've left that one out. But June or July are actually still fine times to do events. If you're not choosing to do public events, go ahead and make sure that you're doing client appreciation events. So picnics, barbecues, garden tours, etc. Then back at it again for September and October, and November and December, no events. Go with things more like client appreciation events, the Holiday Lights tours, again, doing annual reviews of people that you weren't able to see during the summer. So that being kind of just a good general layout, we're looking at 1 in January, 1 in February, possibly 2 in March, 1 in April, 1 in May. You have an option for 2 in June or July. Don't forget to do your reviews and summer picnics and lunch and learns, community ed, all of that kind of stuff can be done during the summer. And then back again for September and October. So when you look at all of those options, there's really an opportunity to plan 8 to 10 events. 10 if you're going to do the summer, 8 if you're just going to do the basic good seminar season. Good seminar season is what we call from January to May and September and October. So that's where the bulk of those events are going to be. So we're just going to walk through really quickly the basics of planning an event, because for some of you, again, it might just be kind of refreshers, but we have kind of a fairly set up process that we utilize, and it is a little bit different than some of you that even come from a big event background and doing seminars before. So when we look for an event location, you have to have your location and your order form solidified 30 to 35 days prior to the actual event. So that's the amount of time that the mail house needs in order to be able to make an event happen. We want you to select those 2 dates. And again, when we refer to one mailing, it's one mailing, 2 sessions. So those 2 dates are both going to be posted on your actual invite. We recommend start times of 4:30. This can be a little bit different. Sometimes people say, wow, that's really early. How do people get there? The demographic that we're looking for is 60 to 75. That's the main demographic that we're looking for. So for most of those people, they have either retired from their primary career or retired fully. So 4 or 4:30 is not a stretch. It's kind of the same as what we would say for those that are working or still kind of dabbling in maybe a part-time job or a few hours here and there at their current job. It's like a doctor's appointment. If they have a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, they'll make that happen. Now, this isn't in the middle of the day for many of them, but maybe they have to sneak out a little bit early if that's the case. But we put it early in the evening because we want to make sure that we have enough time to still feed them dinner after you get done presenting. So we present first, feed after. Our presentation is about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half long. So if we plan for an hour and a half, so even if you're starting at 4 o'clock, you're able to actually sit down and be eating dinner about 5:30. 4:30, you're going to be sitting down to eat dinner about 6 o'clock. So 4 or 4:30 is the starting time that we recommend. We'll talk a little bit more about the demographics and the list. We have a default process that our mailing team just kind of utilizes. Now, that works about 80–85% of the time because it's very, very uniform. And for a lot of parts of the country, that works fine. There are some exceptions, and some of you have done it often enough that you know, okay, well, I'm kind of one of those exceptions. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit more, but we basically have kind of two different options of methods for how you're going to go in and put your order form in, and the option of what demographics and target area you're going to be using. The part of the process is your delivery date is expected to arrive in mailboxes 10 to 14 days before. So when some of you think, 30, 35 days before my date that I have to have my order form in, a big chunk of that is the time that it's sitting in the people's mailboxes and giving them the opportunity to call in and make the reservation. So 10 to 14 days is our target date in order to get those in your mailboxes, and that's when your reservations should start coming in. You will be given an RSVP number. So part of our pay per person package, which is the $80 per person, maximum of 50 reservations, is RSVP service. So part of this process of when you submit an order form, the mailing team will take that, they'll go through your mailing list, they'll get your invite prepared. Part of that is they'll set up an RSVP account number for you. And that will come with instructions where you can log in. You can customize it to your liking if you want, or you can just leave it with the default settings that we've already put up there for you. The default settings are fine. There's nothing that you have to do and go in and customize. I do have some people that prefer to go in and tweak the scripts a little bit. It's totally up to you. But you will have full login abilities of going there and making any changes to that account. And that's also the place where all of your information will be stored. Now there's lots of quick, ease snapshot view type things for you to be able to get, which is anytime an RSVP comes in, it will be emailed to you directly to your email account on file. So you don't have to keep going in and relogging back into your RSVP account. That's just where all of the information is stored and the place that you're going to go in and get your full list, the day or two before your event. And you'll be able to, if you want, make name tags from there if you wanted to. But that's the full list. You can see the entire, both sessions at the same time. So that's your account that you can log in and see a lot more information, but you will get onesie-twosie emails as things come in as well. So obviously, a few logical things, but I like to always make sure I tell people, call your RSVP number, test your own RSVP number, see how they're answering your phone, make sure that, there's not some sort of a typo on there, that it works well. So when you get your proof, that's a good time for you to just pick up the phone, test that RSVP number, and make sure that it's working well. Also, I've had some people get caught off guard with the capacity. The mail house will by default put in a capacity number. I believe it's 35 if memory serves me. And some people will say, well, my room only holds 20. Well, if that needs to be communicated, or you need to go in and make sure that you fill that capacity in appropriately. That's why the capacity is being asked for on the order form. That's why you have the ability of going in and changing that in your RSVP account. So if 35 is not what your room could hold comfortably, and we recommend that your room holds more like 25 to 30 comfortably. We really like to see you guys keep your individuals in that room that you're talking to on the day of your presentation to no more than 30. Anything over that just starts to get a little hectic, too many people for you to have to get through. So 25 to 30 is a really nice sized group for you. They'll call and reserve a seat, see what kind of questions that your RSVP person might be able to handle. So the important thing, pick up the phone and call your own RSVP number. Make sure that they're pronouncing your name correctly. They can phonetically put information into the call screen that they see. So just make sure that you do a test on it. So we're talking about venues. Now, in an ideal world, we'd find 2 or 3 venues. because most cities don't work where you can just drive easily to one specific venue without having a much longer driving distance from one area of the city to the other. So ideally, we would say go ahead and find multiple venues. So how do we go about doing that? It has to have private dining, okay? So if we made a little triangle and I put a venue on each one of the points of the triangle, that's exactly, in an ideal world, what I'd be looking for. 2 or 3 venues spread out throughout your area. So I can look at a map and say, okay, a venue, this venue A is up here in northwest corner of Rochester. So my northwest corner of Rochester people are going to go to venue A. Maybe my southwest corner of Rochester people are going to go to venue B. We'll kind of look at a map and do this, but think through your area and realize where's the flow of traffic and where does it make sense for you to start looking for those venues. And ideally, you would find more than one venue. It does have to be a standalone restaurant with a lot of parking, no golf courses, nothing that has to be catered, no banquet halls. It needs to be a standalone restaurant with an actual sign and their own parking lot. So how do you go about doing this? And this is probably the question that I'm asked the absolute most. And I will preface it by saying, you're the one that's living in your area. I can absolutely help you, and I'm happy to do that. But it does go to a level where I'll give you a short list of different private dining establishments as I can see that look decent online. But the process that I use is we go to Google and you just Google private dining 55901. That's Rochester's zip code. And when I Google that, you're going to get a number of different pages. Yelp happens to be my personal favorite one because there's lots of different little filter criteria that you can use. OpenTable has some, Urban Spoon has some. You can filter on different methods on any of these main Google results. $1 sign, $2 sign, $3 sign, $4 sign. We don't want 4s, okay? So this is where this can be a little bit different for some people. We don't want 4s. 4s are Ruth Chris Steakhouse, very high-end steakhouses. That's not the type of private dining locations we're looking for. We are looking for very basic macaroni grill, Carrabba's, Buca di Beppo. Lots of Italian ones will have private dining. So you'll see that, you know, there tends to be a lot of Italian ones listed here, or local little steakhouses. I have Outback Steakhouse listed here. They don't commonly have a room, but that kind of gives you an idea what price range are we looking at. Outback Steakhouse, many times Lone Tree, something like that. They won't necessarily all have private dining spaces, but that gives you an idea as to what caliber of a steakhouse we're looking for. Other ones that have been kind of fun is a Japanese steakhouse, and they do tend to have little, at least broken out rooms, or several of them do have kind of like private rooms where there's 3 or 4 grills. You know, you might only be able to put 8 people around each grill, but you can have, you know, 3 grills that are all kind of working together, or 2 grills that are working together in a broken out private space. So Japanese steakhouses, it was never even on my radar, but it has actually been a really fun place, really kind of works with the atmosphere, works with the concept that the event is different, it's fun, it's entertaining, and so is a Japanese steakhouse. So like a teppanyaki, where they cook it right there at the grill. So that's also an option. We are not looking for high dollar places, okay? That's the big deal there. No high-end venues, okay? So different dining establishments define private dining very differently. So you do need a physical different room. Private party, private dining, group dining, all of those are kind of the hot keywords that you're going to be looking for. but do make sure that you make an on-site visit. If you just look at a website, which is exactly what I do, I look at a website, I try to look for pictures, I try to look at, you know, as much information possible before I would ever consider giving you guys a short list of, hey, check out these 3 or 4 places, or maybe you know them off the top of your head. But make sure you go there and actually look at it. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had people actually go to their event the morning of and say, oh yeah, it just didn't work because it was a really thin, skinny room, really long. It was too difficult for me to walk through the tables the way that I had to set the tables in order to cram my 30 people in. Yeah, it was just too packed. I couldn't even get around. That's not the day that you should be figuring that out, guys. If you go to visit, you should be able to look at the room, have them either have it set up or, you know, ask them if you can come back when it's set up so you can get a good visual as to where would I put 25 people? Where would I put 30 people in this room? Can people still move around? There's nothing that's going to irritate people more as if you have them packed like little sardines in this room and no one can move, no one can scoot their chair, no one can get up to go to the restroom. That will not set the stage for a good presentation, okay? So is it really private? Is there space to present? How many seats? Okay, we're looking for capacities not more than 30. In a perfect world, I'd go with half rounds. What that means is that it's a round table, but you're seated only on half of it, on the back half forward, you know, facing forward to the screen. You're going to go ahead and book your venue, pick your date and your start time. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are preferred event dates. Thursday would probably be my least preferred just because of where the appointments have to be scheduled after that. So if you have a Thursday event, we can't really use a Friday as an appointment day. So we're forcing to put a weekend in between, Monday being the first date that they could actually book an appointment, which gives them a lot of extra time to stop and think about it. So Thursday would not be my preferred date, but it's a fine date as far as response goes and being able to make confirmation calls and all that kind of stuff. So Tuesday, Wednesday, preferably, and Thursday would be if necessary. 4 or 4:30, I'll leave an hour and a half to present. You can serve, it's totally up to you and the dining establishment as to how you want to work your menu. For many events, they'll just say, hey, you know, go ahead and pick 3. We'll make this little cut down menu and all of your people can choose between, you know, 2 or 3 different entrees. That's probably the common way. When people file in, they're able to actually just go ahead and mark their menu choice. They pick up the menus, or they'll come around and actually take their orders before you start presenting, and that will kind of allow them the prep time that they need. That's probably the traditional way. I have had restaurants that want you to pre-order. That can get kind of messy. It's very difficult to try to guess what your people are going to want, and it's also difficult to get the reservation service to, they'll do it, but to go ahead and have to collect all those orders, and then you have to keep going into the account to take a look at what they actually want to order and then submit it back to the restaurant. So I would definitely push them to just say, hey, can you give me, you know, 2, 3, 4 different entrees that fit in my price range, and that's what I'll allow them to select from. Negotiate a group price. $20 to $25 a plate is really what we're shooting for. Nothing more than that, and there's really not going to be a lot of options for less than that are going to be standalone restaurants. And then once you've got your venue, go ahead and book it, and then you can go ahead and start your order form. So on our 5Q members website, underneath the Outside the Box 2016 package, which I apologize, but it looked like the page was, or the PowerPoint was down there for a few minutes. So that has been corrected. So for any of you that were trying to open up the new PowerPoint, that has been fixed. There's an order form underneath the presentation package, and this is a little bit different since we just put up 2016. This is a different screen than you've seen before, but it's on the left navigation here. Look for Outside the Box 2016. And there's different sections within the page. If you go and look at the invite section, there's the order form there for the mailing team. And then that's the order form that you'll start with. Again, if you have any questions before you do this, go ahead and get in contact with me. I'm happy to help. You'll complete the order form, 30 to 35 days, fax it in. In a few days, you're going to have to approve a proof, a list. We're going to go quickly through this list, and this, for those of you that need more information, go ahead and give me a call or shoot me an email, and we can set up a time to be able to go through this. But option 1 is kind of our default. You're not going to ask for anything special. You're going to go with ages 60 to 75. You're going to give us the location of where your venue is, and basically we're just going to pull a radius around that venue for roughly around 5,000 people. That's about how big the mailing will be, that are going to hit that demographic of the 60 to 75. We do not recommend any other filters. No income, assets, homeowner. There are some areas that you may need to do that for different purposes. However, I will caution you, we do not like income or asset filters because there is no guaranteed way, and you end up usually excluding a large group of people that that just haven't reported any information. So if you choose an income number or an asset number, you're excluding people that haven't collected this data from random surveys and all of that. So that's really the reason why we cast the biggest net first. And then after you've got 1 or 2 under your belt, then we go back and we can evaluate and say, you know what, maybe we need to add a minor filter here, or maybe we need to look at a different zip code area instead, based upon what we learned from the first mailing or 2. That basically is going to work 85% of the time. Very slick and easy. I always recommend start with that option. If you don't come from a background of doing a lot of event marketing in your area, start with that option and let's just see where we can go. A couple of reasons not to use that option. If you only have 1 venue, people are only going to drive so far. So if all you can literally find in your city is 1 private dining space, you're not going to be able to just throw that there and do a radius, because you're going to constantly get the same group of people, and we can only exclude people long enough that people aren't going to have to drive a ridiculous far distance. So the farthest they will drive is basically however far their nearest basic shopping center is. So Walmart, Target, a large shopping center that they could go. If you're making them drive farther than that, it's too far. Okay. So this is kind of the target, the bullseye approach that I'll talk to people about. If you go the first mailing, you'll get that inner circle. You'll get this inner circle here. The second mailing, we want to exclude those people. So you're going to have to go out this far in order to get your 5,000 people that we mail to. So each mailing, if you only have 1 spot, that's going to start to get too far away. People will not drive, okay? So people are funny. You sometimes have people that won't cross county lines or rivers or bridges or mountains, or there's difficult highway access. State lines is a big one. Not so much out east, because you guys are a little bit more used to doing that on a day in and day out basis, but those are things that you have to keep in mind. Those are things that I don't even have a clue if you have an obstacle, a river in between, and the access to getting to the river is actually 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles downstream is the best bridge for them to cross, then it's not going to be logical for us to just pick a venue and do a radius. We're actually going to have to sit down and go through specific zips. And this is a process that does take a little bit of time and pre-planning on the front end. So you can't call and ask me to help you do this in a day and then, oh, I have to get my order form done by tomorrow. This is a multi-step process, and so we would actually go through mapping your venues. You still have to have your venues first of all. Then we'll map your venues. We'll get counts. We'll actually sit down and take the time to plot them all out, okay? Based upon the counts and this is the ballpark figure. So obviously these counts change on a daily basis, but it kind of gives us an idea. Here's the number of people that are surrounding A and B and C.
How can I tell them? Oh.
And we'll keep going through until we can break these areas into separate little mailing areas. So for venue A, for instance, we'll say, out of this list of people that I had, I'm going to break out A1, A2, A3. and so on and so forth for B and C, so that you're rotating through each of these groups, okay? We don't want to mail any more frequent than every 3 months. So 4 times a year, as you saw from the beginning, we've got basically 8 sessions or 8 events that you could do. You're nowhere close to hitting those any more frequent than that. So that shouldn't be an issue, but we don't want to hit the same area anything more than 4 times. As far as, whoops, that's just a recap here. So again, we've got 8. So this is just kind of an example of the different mailing areas on the different month and rotating through. So again, if you're in one of those areas that we need to do that, it's just easier for you and I to just kind of walk through it together as opposed to trying to do it on your own. So feel free to give me a call. Track your areas. That's a big one. You know, a lot of times we'll have people do 6, 7 events and then they'll have no idea, well, I don't know which one actually worked better. We'll help you, give you tools to help track those. Spreadsheets, that kind of stuff are all available out on our site, and we can definitely help you to make sure that you're collecting information every time you do one of these. You might have areas that don't pull as well, but don't give up. Just go to another area and let's try moving maybe to a different venue. You'll eventually start to learn and see the areas of the city that work better for you. So, and then that's where sometimes we figure out that, oh, bridges, they won't cross, mountains, they won't cross. Okay, so deadline dates, 30 to 35 days before the event. That means for a January event, you're looking at about a week from now. So no time but the present to get planning. So sorry I had to zip through that really fast. I apologize.
And then thanks, Missy. I appreciate that. And then, guys, the DOL, we have a chance to squash the whole DOL thing still on the record because the Senate will be voting on delaying it. They're going to tack it on the omnibus bill. We are going to send you an email to contact your senator because it's in the Senate. So please, 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 I don't care if you just put on your senator's page, stop the DOL from doing this or whatever. It doesn't even have to be a long letter. Just let them know that you want them to stop the DOL getting into our business. You have to do this. The more, I mean, this is what's caused it to slow down the way it is it got 300,000 comments to slow this thing down. So please, take the time. It's your business. You don't want, I don't care if you're an asset manager or you're an insurance professional or you're an RIA, you don't want the DOL telling us how to run our businesses. So make sure that you look for an email from us today. It's called Important. Act on this and act on it. I don't care if it's a 1 sentence. Act on it. The more people that comment, the better, okay? Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Missy. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Jared, for all your help today. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you all on Wednesday. Jeff will be talking to you on Friday. Thanks, guys.